The courthouse smelled like old wood and recycled air. I sat alone at my table while Dad's side of the courtroom looked like a family reunion. My brother Marcus, my sister Vanessa, Dad's new wife Diane, and their attorney Richard Chun, who charged $850 an hour and looked like he knew it. Judge Patricia Morrison shuffled papers at the bench. She'd been assigned to our estate case 3 weeks ago, and from her body language, she'd already decided I was the problem. "Ms. Webb," Judge Morrison said without looking up, "your mother passed 18 months ago. Your father has been the estate executor for that entire time. Can you explain why we're here today?" I stood, 29 years old, wearing a navy suit I'd bought specifically for this hearing. My hands didn't shake. "Your Honor, I'm contesting my father's management of the estate. There are discrepancies in discrepancies." Dad's voice cut through the courtroom. He didn't stand, just leaned back in his chair with his arms crossed. "Your Honor, my daughter has been difficult since her mother's funeral. She's questioned every decision, demanded access to documents she has no right to see, and now she's dragging us to court over her paranoia." Marcus nodded. Vanessa whispered something to Diane. Judge Morrison finally looked at me. "Ms. Webb, do you have evidence of mismanagement? I have questions about several large withdrawals." "Questions aren't evidence," Richard Chun interrupted smoothly. "Your Honor, Ms. Webb has no legal background, no financial expertise, and frankly, no standing to challenge the executor's decisions. Her mother's will was clear. Her father has complete discretion over estate management until the final distribution." "I'm a beneficiary," I said. "I have the right to receive your inheritance when the executor determines the time is appropriate," Chun continued. "Not to micromanage every decision, not to waste this court's time with conspiracy theories." Judge Morrison sighed, the kind of sigh that tells you exactly how this is going to end. "Ms. Webb, I've reviewed the filings. Your father has provided quarterly reports. All expenses appear legitimate. Unless you have concrete evidence of wrongdoing, I'm inclined to dismiss there are gaps in the documentation," I said. My voice stayed level. 3 transfers totaling $780,000. No explanation in any quarterly report. Dad smiled. Actually smiled. "Legal fees, property maintenance, and estate taxes," he said. "All documented. All necessary." "Your Honor, my daughter doesn't understand how estates work. She sees large numbers and assumes something's wrong. Perhaps Ms. Webb would benefit from having her own counsel review the documents," Judge Morrison said. "But, as of now, I see no grounds for removing you as executor, Mr. Webb." Marcus whispered something to Vanessa. They both looked at me and smirked. "Your Honor," I said quietly, "I'd like to present additional evidence." Richard Chun stood. "We've been through discovery. If Ms. Webb had evidence, she should have presented it weeks ago. This is exactly the kind of delay tactic." "It's not a delay tactic. I found something yesterday that got Judge Morrison's attention." "What did you find?" I reached into my bag, pulled out a single envelope. Cream-colored paper. My mother's handwriting on the front. "To be opened only by Alexis. Only in court. Only if absolutely necessary." Dad's smile faded. "That's private correspondence," Richard Chun said quickly. "Not admissible without proper authentication." "It's addressed to me," I said. "My mother left it in her safety deposit box. The bank manager witnessed me opening the box yesterday. Everything is documented." Judge Morrison gestured. "Approach." I walked to the bench, handed her the envelope. She examined Mom's handwriting, then carefully opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Typed. Just 4 lines. Judge Morrison read it. Her expression changed. She looked at me, then at Dad, then back at the paper. "Mr. Webb," she said slowly, "can you tell me what Operation Stormwatch refers to?" The courtroom went silent. Dad's face went from confident to confused to something else. Something I'd never seen before. "Fear." "I don't know what you're talking about," he said. Judge Morrison read from the paper. If William contests the secondary provisions, Alexis should invoke Amber Room Protocol regarding Operation Stormwatch. Documentation is in the Providence location, Unit 447. That doesn't mean anything, Dad said. But his voice had changed. Amber Room Protocol, Judge Morrison repeated. She was staring at Dad now. That's a very specific phrase. Mr. Webb. Richard Chun looked confused. Marcus and Vanessa exchanged glances. But Dad's whole body had gone rigid. Your Honor. Chun started. I don't understand what step outside, Mr. Chun, Judge Morrison said. Not a request. An order. Your Honor, I'm counsel of record. Step outside. Now. Take Mr. Webb's family with you. Chun's mouth opened. Closed. He looked at Dad, who nodded once. Marcus, Vanessa, and Diane stood. They filed out, Marcus shooting me a look that said this wasn't over. The courtroom doors closed. Judge Morrison removed her glasses, rubbed her eyes. Ms. Webb, she said, do you know what your mother was referring to? No, Your Honor. I was hoping you could explain. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she turned to Dad. William, I'm going to ask you a direct question, and I'm going to remind you that you're under oath. Were you involved in Operation Stormwatch? Dad didn't answer. I'll take your silence as confirmation, Judge Morrison said. Ms. Webb, I'm going to tell you something that's going to sound very strange. Your mother and I knew each other. We worked together a long time ago, in a capacity I cannot discuss in open court. Operation Stormwatch was classified. Still, is classified. The fact that your mother left you instructions to invoke Amber Room Protocol tells me two things. First, that she had specific knowledge about your father's activities. Second, that she expected this exact situation. My mind was racing. I don't understand. You don't need to understand. But I do need to recuse myself from this case immediately. She looked at Dad. William, I'm issuing an emergency order freezing all estate assets pending a full forensic audit. I am also referring this matter to the appropriate authorities for investigation into potential misuse of classified information and misappropriation of government assets. You can't do that, Dad said. His voice was hoarse. I absolutely can. Bailiff, please bring Mr. Chun and the family back in. The doors opened. Richard Chun walked in first, looking annoyed. Then, Marcus, Vanessa, and Diane. Judge Morrison addressed the courtroom. I'm recusing myself from this case, effective immediately, due to a conflict of interest. I'm also issuing an emergency order freezing all assets of the Webb estate pending investigation. Mr. Webb, you are temporarily suspended as executor. The court will appoint a neutral administrator within 48 hours. What? Marcus stood up. You can't just sit down, sir. Judge Morrison's voice was ice. She looked at me. Ms. Webb, you'll receive instructions about accessing the Providence location within 24 hours. Go alone. Tell no one. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor. This hearing is adjourned. She stood, left through the back door. The whole thing had taken maybe 3 minutes. Richard Chun was staring at his phone like it might explain what just happened. Dad sat frozen in his chair. Marcus and Vanessa were talking over each other, demanding answers. I picked up my bag and walked out. The parking lot was empty except for my Honda Civic and Dad's Mercedes. I was halfway to my car when I heard footsteps behind me. Alexis. Dad's voice. I turned. He looked older suddenly, like he'd aged a decade in the last 10 minutes. You don't know what you're doing, he said. I'm following Mom's instructions. Your mother didn't understand. She thought she knew, but she didn't have the full picture. What picture? He glanced back at the courthouse, lowered his voice. Operation Stormwatch was a joint task force, domestic counterintelligence. Your mother worked analysis. I worked field operations. We met on the job. Mom never mentioned any of this. She wasn't supposed to. Neither was I, but the operation ended badly. There were assets that needed to be secured. Physical assets, financial assets, intelligence that couldn't fall into the wrong hands. He stepped closer. When your mother got sick, she asked me to hide certain things. To keep them safe. To keep you safe. By stealing $780,000 from her estate, it's not stealing if it was never hers to begin with. What does that mean? It means the money in that estate came from sources you don't want to investigate. It means Providence Unit 447 contains things that will make your life very complicated. It means you should walk away from this. Take your inheritance when the time comes, and never ask about Stormwatch again. I studied his face. He looked sincere. Almost desperate. Why should I trust you? Because I'm your father. You sued to keep me from seeing estate records. You've blocked every question I've asked for 18 months. You brought your new wife to court, like this was a party. I shook my head. You lost the right to play the father card. I turned toward my car. Alexis. His voice was different now. Harder. There are people who still care about people who would be very interested to know that someone is poking around in those files. If you go to Providence, you're putting yourself on their radar. Is that a threat? It's a warning from someone who knows exactly how dangerous this is. I got in my car and drove away. Providence was a 3-hour drive. I left at 6 a.m. the next morning. Told my roommate I was visiting a college friend. Didn't mention the court hearing. Didn't mention anything. Judge Morrison had been true to her word. At 7 p.m. the previous night, a courier had delivered an envelope to my apartment. Inside was a key, an address, and a handwritten note. Storage facility. Unit 447. Go alone. Destroy this note. The storage facility was in an industrial area near the docks. Chain link fence. Security cameras. Units that looked like they hadn't been opened in years. The manager was a woman in her 60s named Carol. She barely looked up when I signed in. Unit 447, she said. That one's been paid up for 12 years. Never seen anyone go in or out. 12 years. Lady came in 2013. Paid for 20 years in advance. Cash. Said someone would come eventually. Carol squinted at me. Guess that's you. She handed me a second key, a larger one, for the unit padlock. Unit 447 was in the back corner. The kind of spot you'd choose if you wanted privacy. I unlocked the padlock, lifted the rolling door. Inside was dark. I found a light switch. Fluorescent bulbs flickered on. The unit was maybe 10 by 10 feet. Metal shelving along 2 walls. Boxers. Filing cabinets, and in the center, a small safe with an electronic keypad. I started with the boxers. The first one contained files. Personnel records. Names I didn't recognize. Photos clipped to documents. The second box had financial records. Bank statements from the 1990s and early 2000s. Accounts in the Cayman Islands, Switzerland, Singapore. The third box had a laptop. Old model, probably 10 years out of date. And the fourth box had photographs. I pulled them out slowly. My mother, maybe 30 years old, in tactical gear, standing with a group of people in what looked like a warehouse. My father was there too, younger, serious expression. There were dozens of photos. Training exercises, surveillance operations. And then photos of other people. Targets, maybe. Each one had a date stamped on the back and a status written in my mother's handwriting. Neutralized. Extracted. Compromised. The last photo in the stack stopped me cold. It was my mother and father. But also Judge Patricia Morrison, all 3 of them. Maybe 1998 based on the fashion, standing in front of a building I didn't recognize. On the back, in my mother's writing, Stormwatch Core Team. Providence Safe House. If you're reading this, one of them betrayed you. My hands started shaking. I set the photo down. Turned to the safe. The keypad blinked. I tried my birthday. Wrong code. Mom's birthday. Wrong. Parents' anniversary. The safe clicked open. Inside were 3 items. First, a USB drive labeled Stormwatch Financials. Complete records. Second, a handwritten letter from my mother. Third, a gun. Small caliber, Smith & Wesson, loaded. I picked up the letter. My mother's handwriting, the same precise script from all her notes growing up. Alexis, If you're reading this, I'm gone, and your father has tried to claim the estate. I'm sorry. I hoped he wouldn't. Operation Stormwatch was a counterintelligence operation targeting domestic extremist cells. We were successful. Too successful. We recovered $12 million in assets that couldn't be returned to their original sources without exposing the operation. The decision was made to keep the money in a trust to be used for ongoing national security purposes. Your father was the financial manager. Judge Morrison was the legal oversight. I was the documentation officer. 3 of us, equal authority, mutual checks and balances. In 2009, I discovered your father was siphoning money. Not large amounts. Just enough to avoid suspicion. By the time I compiled evidence, he'd taken nearly $2 million. I confronted him. He promised to stop. He didn't. By 2015, he'd taken $4.8 million. I threatened to go to Morrison. He begged me not to. Said he'd made investments, that he'd pay it all back, that he'd done it for our family, for you, Marcus, and Vanessa. I wanted to believe him, so I made a deal. He would return the money by 2020. If he didn't, I would expose everything. Then I got sick, and I realized he'd never planned to return it. He was waiting for me to die. The USB drive contains complete records. Every transfer, every account, every dollar he stole. It also contains proof that Judge Morrison knew she authorized, looking the other way in exchange for a cut. The estate you're fighting over, it's built on stolen money. Money that was supposed to fund operations that keep people safe. Your father used it to buy real estate, to invest in his businesses, to build his comfortable life. I couldn't expose him while alive. It would have destroyed the family. Destroyed you. So, primera, wa aited. And I planned. If you've gotten this far, you have a choice. You can take this evidence to the authorities. They'll arrest your father. They'll arrest Morrison. They'll seize everything. You'll lose your inheritance, but you'll do the right thing. Or, you can use this as leverage. Use it to force your father to distribute the estate immediately, to give you and your siblings what you're owed, and then walk away. I won't tell you which choice to make. You're smart enough to decide for yourself. But Sanu, Tees, your father loves you. He's weak, and he's greedy. But he does love you, and Judge Morrison is dangerous. She has connections that even I couldn't fully map. Be careful, baby. I'm sorry I'm not there to protect you. Mom, I read the letter 3 times. Then I picked up the USB drive. The laptop in the box took 5 minutes to boot up. Old operating system, but functional. I plugged in the USB. Spreadsheets. Hundreds of them, organized by year, by account, by transaction. Color-coded, cross-referenced. My mother had documented everything. I saw my college tuition. $47,000 per year, paid from account 4471B. Marked in red, unauthorized use of Stormwatch funds. I saw the down payment on Marcus's condo. $120,000. Same note. Vanessa's wedding. $85,000. Dad's vacation home in Vermont. $890,000. His investments in tech startups. $1.2 million. The Mercedes in the courthouse parking lot. $112,000. Everything we had. Everything we'd built our lives on. Stolen. And then I found the tab labeled Morrison. Judge Patricia Morrison had taken $1.9 million over 15 years. Smaller amounts than Dad, but consistent. Monthly payments of $8,000, $1,000. And notes in my mother's meticulous handwriting. Legal protection. Court assignment guarantees. Favorable rulings in Stormwatch-adjacent cases. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Then I thought about Mom's warning about being careful. I answered. Ms. Webb. Judge Morrison's voice. I assume you've reached Providence. How did you? I have the storage facility flagged. Carol called me when you signed in. What did you find? My mind raced. Play dumb. Pretend I hadn't opened anything. No. She knew. That's why she called. Everything. I said. The financials, the letter. All of it. Silence on the other end. Your mother was a remarkable woman, Morrison finally said. Brilliant analyst. But she didn't understand the bigger picture. The money we took wasn't theft. It was payment for services rendered. We put our lives on the line for years. We earned every dollar. It was supposed to fund ongoing operations. Operations that ended in 2008. There was no ongoing mandate, just money sitting in accounts, waiting to be seized by some bureaucrat who'd never been in the field. Her voice hardened. We did the right thing. We secured Italiano. We used it to build lives for our families. My mother didn't think so. Your mother was always a bit rigid about rules. It's why I respected her. But it's also why she died middle class, while your father and I prospered. She could have taken more, so hold. How? She earned it. So you admit you stole it. Morrison laughed. Actual laughter. Alexis, you're in possession of classified materials that could put you in federal prison for 20 years. Do you really want to throw around accusations? Are you threatening me? I'm explaining reality. You have two options. First option, you take that USB drive, that letter, and everything else, and you burn it. You go back to court, you accept whatever distribution your father offers, and you move on with your life. I'll make sure the estate unfreezes quickly. You'll have your money within a month. And the second option. You try to expose us. You go to the FBI, the DOJ, whoever you think will care. And you discover that the people who matter already know. They've known for years. And they don't care. Because we were useful. Because we did things that needed doing. Because the alternative was letting that money disappear into General Treasury while we got nothing. You can't be certain they'll protect you. Alexis, I've been a federal judge for 12 years. Your father runs 3 successful businesses. We're pillars of our communities. Who do you think they'll believe? The decorated veterans of a classified operation, or the angry daughter with conspiracy theories? I looked at the photo on the shelves. Mom, Dad, Morrison. 3 people who'd trusted each other once. My mother believed they'd listen. I said quietly. Your mother wrote that letter when she was dying and angry. She wasn't thinking clearly, but you are. Think about what you're risking. Your inheritance. Your siblings' inheritance. Your father's freedom. Your own freedom. For what? For money that was gone before you were born. For principles your mother couldn't even enforce while alive. She enforced them by leaving me instructions. She left you a choice. I'm helping you make the right one. Morrison paused. I'm at the storage facility. Unit 449. Right next to yours. Why don't you come over and we can discuss this face to face? My blood went cold. You're here. I've been here for an hour, waiting to see what you'd do. Come next door, Alexis. Let's talk like adults. The line went dead. I stood in the center of Unit 447, surrounded by my mother's secrets, and realized I'd walked into exactly the trap she'd warned me about. The gun was still in the safe. Primera, pick it up, check the magazine. Fully loaded. Fully loaded. Then I packed everything else into my bag. The USB drive, the letter, the photo, the laptop. I turned off the lights, locked the unit. Unit 449's door was rolled halfway up. Judge Morrison sat on a folding chair inside. No robes now. Just jeans and a jacket, looking very much like someone who used to do field work. Smart girl, she said. You brought the gun. I'm not going to shoot you. I know, but it's smart to have options. She gestured to another folding chair. Sit. We have time. I didn't sit. Stood in the doorway, ready to run if needed. Your father called me in a panic yesterday, Morrison said, after the hearing. Said you'd invoked Amber Room. I couldn't believe it. I thought your mother had told you everything, that you were playing me in court. But you didn't know, did you? You were just following instructions. She knew you'd react to those words. She knew I'd have no choice but to recuse and investigate. Smart play. Forced my hand without revealing anything. Morrison smiled. She always was 3 moves ahead. What do you want? I want to know what you're going to do. Really do. Not what you think you should do. What you will do. I thought about it, about Dad's face in the courthouse, about Marcus and Vanessa, who'd built their lives on stolen money, about the gun in my pocket and the USB drive in my bag. I'm going to take the evidence to the FBI, I said. Morrison nodded slowly. Okay. Then let me tell you what happens next. You'll meet with an agent. Nice person. Probably. They'll listen. They'll take copies. They'll open an investigation, and then nothing will happen. You can't know that. I absolutely can, because 3 people in the Justice Department know about Storm. 2 of them owe me favors. The 3rd is retiring next month and doesn't want complications. Your evidence will sit in a file for 18 months. Tonight will be unable to substantiate. Case closed. I'll go to the media and reveal classified operations. That's a felony. You'll be arrested before the story runs. Morrison leaned forward. Alexis, I'm not the villain here. I'm trying to help you understand how the world actually works. Your mother understood theory. I understand practice. And practically speaking, you cannot win this fight. So I should just let you and Dad keep stolen money. Yes, because it's the smart play. Take your inheritance. Build your life. Move on. I pulled out my phone. Started recording. What are you doing? Morrison asked. I'm recording this conversation. You just admitted to taking $1.9 million in stolen funds. You just explained how you'd use your connections to cover up a federal investigation. That's obstruction of justice. That's conspiracy. I smiled. And unlike classified files, this recording is just a judge explaining how corrupt she is. Nothing classified about that. Morrison's expression didn't change. You're bluffing. Your phone buzzed twice while we've been talking. Check it. She pulled out her phone. Her face went white. I'd forwarded the entire USB drive contents to 3 email addresses while she was talking. 1 to the FBI's Public Corruption Division, 1 to the Washington Post investigative team, 1 to the House Oversight Committee. You just sent classified materials to journalists and politicians, Morrison said quietly. You realize that's probably illegal. Maybe not, depending on whistleblower protections. But definitely newsworthy. I backed toward the door. You have about 12 hours before those emails get opened and read. I'd suggest you spend that time finding a good lawyer. Alexis, wait! I ran, got to my car, drove out of the parking lot. Carol waved from the office. I waved back. My phone started ringing immediately. Dad. I didn't answer. Marcus Cadet ignored. Vanessa? Ignored. Unknown numbers? Ignored. I drove 3 hours back home. Didn't stop. Didn't think. Just drove. By the time I pulled into my apartment parking lot, my phone had 47 missed calls and 89 text messages. The first text was from Dad. What did you do? The second was from Richard Chun. Do not speak to anyone without counsel. The third was from a number I didn't recognize. Washington Post. This is real. Call immediately. He went inside, locked the door. Sat on my couch. My phone rang again. FBI's time. I answered. Ms. Webb. This is Special Agent David Park, Public Corruption Division. I need you to come in for an interview. Today, if possible. Am I in trouble? That depends on several factors. But we've received your email. We're taking it very seriously. Can you come to the field office at 2 p.m.? Yes. Come alone. Bring the original USB drive and any other materials you have. Don't talk to anyone, especially not your father or Judge Morrison. Understood. He hung up. I sat there for a while. Then I called my roommate. Hey, can you do me a favor? If I don't call you by 6 p.m. today, I need you to call this number. I gave her Agent Park's contact. Tell him I went to the FBI field office and didn't come back. Jesus, Alex, what's going on? Long story. Promise you'll call. Promise. Promise. But I took a shower, changed clothes, packed the USB drive, the letter, and the photo into my bag. At 1:45 p.m., I drove to the FBI field office. Agent Park was mid-40s, athletic build, skeptical eyes. He brought me to an interview room. 2 other agents joined us. They read me my rights, explained that I wasn't under arrest, but that anything I said could be used. Then they started asking questions. We talked for 6 hours. I showed them everything. The USB drive, the letter, the recording from the storage facility. They took notes, made copies. Asked for details about Dad's businesses, Morrison's rulings, the original Stormwatch operation. At 7:30 p.m., Agent Park finally leaned back. Ms. Webb, I'll be honest. This is complicated. The underlying operation was classified. The statute of limitations may have expired on some of the financial crimes, and Judge Morrison's involvement creates jurisdictional issues. So nothing happens, I said bitterly. I didn't say that. What I said is it's complicated, but you've given us enough to open a formal investigation. Judge Morrison will be suspended pending review. Your father will be questioned, and the estate will remain frozen until we determine the origin of all assets. How long will that take? Months, maybe years. It depends on what we find. He handed me a business card. Don't leave the state without informing us. Don't talk to your father or any family members about this case. And if Morrison or anyone else contacts you, you call me immediately. I left the FBI building at 8 p.m. My phone had 134 new messages. I didn't read any of them. I drove home, ordered pizza, sat on my couch and turned on the TV. At 11 p.m., my phone buzzed with a news alert. Federal Judge Patricia Morrison suspended amid corruption probe. The Washington Post had run this story. They'd contacted the FBI to verify information from an anonymous source. The FBI had confirmed an active investigation. The article mentioned allegations of financial misconduct related to a classified counterintelligence operation, but no specifics. My phone rang. Dad, I answered. You destroyed everything, he said. His voice was hollow. The estate is frozen. My businesses are being audited. Morrison is suspended. Marcus and Vanessa are being questioned. You destroyed your entire family. You destroyed it, I said quietly. You and Morrison. When you decided to steal money, Mom gave you chances to stop. You didn't. That money was ours. We earned Italiano. It wasn't yours. It never was. So what now? You wait for the FBI to maybe charge us? You get nothing. We get nothing. Everyone loses. I'm okay with that. Silence. Your mother would be ashamed, Dad said finally. No, she wouldn't. She left me instructions for exactly this situation. She knew what I'd find. She knew what I'd do. And she gave me the tools to do it. I paused. She wasn't ashamed of me, Dad. She was ashamed of you. I hung up. 3 months later, the FBI filed charges against Judge Patricia Morrison for corruption and obstruction. They couldn't charge Dad with theft because the statute of limitations had expired, but they froze all assets pending civil forfeiture proceedings. The estate was dissolved. Everything Dad had bought with Stormwatch money was seized. The house, the cars, the investments. Marcus and Vanessa lost their condo down payments but weren't charged because they hadn't known the source of the money. They don't speak to me anymore. Dad took a plea deal, testified against Morrison in exchange for no jail time. He lives in a studio apartment now, works at a consulting firm for $65,000 a year. Morrison was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison. I got nothing from the estate. Everything was seized or returned to government accounts. But I did get something else. 6 months after Morrison's sentencing, I received a letter from the Justice Department. My roommate found me staring at the check in our kitchen. Is that real? She asked. Yeah. What are you going to do with it? I thought about Mom. About the letter she'd left me. about the choice she'd known I'd make. I'm going to do something that matters, I said. I'm going to build something that isn't stolen. I donated $300,000 to organizations that help put $400,000 into an investment account. Use the rest as seed money to start a nonprofit that provides legal support for people fighting corrupt executors and trustees. Named it the Amber Room Foundation. Last week, I got an email from someone I didn't know. Subject line: Thank you. Inside was a short message. My father stole from my mother's estate. Your foundation helped me stop him. You saved my inheritance and my sanity. Thank you. I printed the email, put it in a frame on my office wall, right next to the photo from the storage unit. Mom, Dad, and Morrison, young and confident and corrupt. Underneath, I'd written in permanent marker, Operation Stormwatch. Ended by Alexis Webb, 2025. I don't talk to my father. I don't talk to Marcus or Vanessa. I'm not invited to family events. But I sleep fine at night. And sometimes, when I'm working late at the foundation office, I swear I can feel Mom watching. Proud that I made the hard choice. The right choice. The choice she couldn't make while alive, but ensured I'd make after she was gone.